RotoGrinders, Dean here, Dean 7904. If you want to get all technical, it is the start of 2 hours NBA DFS conversation, taking y'all straight up the lock, straight up the tip at 7 o'clock on the East Coast. Yesterday, of course, was the appetizer. Today, the main course, 12 games. Not messing around in the association tonight. So really no time for shenanigans. TJ, you've been warned. TJ Zwartz, of course, is here. He's back, returning champion. He was on the show yesterday, at least on Crunch Time he was on yesterday. You all know TJ. TJ, one of the greatest DFS players in all of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. TJ, again, not a lot of pleasantries, but I do want to say hello. What's up, TJ? How are things in your world?
Doing very well. Just been grinding my way, enjoying every second of this new Spider-Man game for PS5. That's what I've been up to lately. And then we got NFL, we got NBA. Life's good right now.
Bobby Gomes, of course, y'all know Bobby, former $1 million winner. Bobby, 1/3 of the People's Show on Sunday, talking some NFL. Today we're talking some basketball, some hoops. Bobby, how are things? How is life hating the Celtics before the season even starts?
Things are great. I don't hate the Celtics. I love this team. They get the best starting five I think we've seen in a long time in the NBA. I'm just mad I have to deal with green teamers. For those that don't know, delusional Boston fans who think they've already won the championship and they haven't played any games yet.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be no overreaction to a night in the Garden, one way or the other. Even the New York fans on the other side, I'm sure, can completely lose their minds as well, depending on how things go. Bobby, anything that you want to say as far as the slate, anything overarching? We're going to go game by game. If there's something that's like not worth saying, we're gonna do our best to like trim the fat, I suppose, is a way to say it, because it's 12 gamer, right? We can talk about everything we possibly can talk about, squeeze everything in until crunch time yields. We got Andy Means coming on later. Andy Means, Kevin Roth, and Keith Eyster taking y'all straight up the lock. Do want to say what's up? Hello to chat. Chat, kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. I will have my eye on the chats as far as comments and questions. We'll do our best to kind of like throw them in, but it'll be a little tricky. Just no promises there, but like for sure you can get your questions answered on crunch time. They have time sketched out for that. But I'll do my best to knock out some of those questions from chats. More likely, if it's pertinent to the conversation, you'll get your question asked. But just because it's 12 games, it's going to be kind of tricky to do that. We were talking about this pre-show, Bobby. Luka Doncic, latest game on the slate against Wembanyama on prime time. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited to watch Wembanyama. I'm totally buying in, and I'm already putting him in the Hall of Fame. It's outrageous how he's just so illegal what this guy can do. He's so good. Just kind of a cheat code. Luka is currently questionable. If he doesn't go, that's one of the big body parts. He did practice today, so I would say more likely than not that he plays. But that's basically, as far as the 12 gamer, we'll talk about injuries as we go. That's probably the most important piece. Darius Garland is questionable as well, too. Cleveland's already thin, so it's kind of sort of something that we'll keep our eye on as well. But we know a lot. I shouldn't say that. Knock on wood. Theoretically, we know a lot as far as the injury news on opening night here. Is that what you're keeping your eye on as far as Luka? Is there anything else that kind of catches your eye? Maybe I'm overlooking when it comes to, like, there's going to be some fringe guys starting out of nowhere, maybe. It's like, I didn't really expect Robert Covington might start. Like, do we care? I don't know. Probably not. But, what are you looking at besides the Luka situation?
For me, it's like,
who's this, me or TJ?
I figured I'd dive in because I wasn't sure either. Yeah, for me, it's like the Luka one is the only thing I'm really waiting on. Everything else, like I have, as long as he plays and we don't get anything out of the ordinary, I have my 20 lineups built already. Maybe I'll do some tinkering. It's 12 games, so I'm sure we're going to get a little bit of chaos here. But that's the only thing that I'm just like currently waiting to see right now.
Bobby, anything to add to that?
No, that's pretty much it for me. Like, I don't think we're playing any of these. Like, I don't think we're going to get a ton of news. I don't think that we're playing any of these backups because everyone's kind of underpriced as it is. Center position, very lot of value there. So I feel like in your flex, you're either playing a center or a power forward center, I would imagine, just in terms of construction. And yeah, I don't know. Seems like an interesting NBA slate to start the year.
Yeah, it is worth saying before we get going, as far as game by game, like the builds on DK and Fanduel are pretty different. And yeah, I think you're pretty likely to end up with 2 centers on DK because I had a hard time doing my rankings as far as my favorite centers, and some other positions not as hard, but it seems like all the centers are like, I don't know, 15, 20% discounted or like at least 1K too cheap for whatever reason. And there's a couple other pricing anomalies that we'll kind of touch on as well as we go along. But Bobby, did you put any rules in there as far as building out your lineups? Did you say like, or maybe it just happens organically, you're getting 2 centers. And of course, the guys that are center power forward eligible, you're probably almost definitely throwing them in the power forward spot first.
I just pretty much, I think it's just going to happen organically. Like you're going to get some small forward power. You're going to obviously power forward center is going to be or just center in general is going to be the position you're going to get the most in your flex. There'll be some small forwards, but mainly for me, what I seem to be getting is center and power forward.
All right, let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's break the slate down game by game. Very first game we're going to talk about should be a really fun game from a DFS perspective. Atlanta, the Hawks in Charlotte, 236 is the total. Atlanta's a 3-point favorite, and this one is, it's high and tight as we like it from a DFS perspective. Atlanta pretty much fully healthy. They're without Wes Matthews, not a big deal. Charlotte, obviously, they're without Bridges. Cody Martin's not going to play. I'm not sure if Ntilikina was going to be the rotation or not, but he's not available either. So Charlotte looks really, really thin. Atlanta, once Snyder took over last year, Snyder played at a fast pace. So for me, TJ, this is one of the more appealing games. Like there's not like a glaring value per se, but certainly some of the center conversation on DK starts here as well. But again, there's going to be a long line. Talk to me about the Hornets first, TJ. How do you feel about Charlotte?
I like both of these teams today quite a bit. I agree with you. I don't think it's the best game to target on the slate, but I think it is one of the better ones for sure. Top 3 or 4. I love the idea of just kind of skinny stacking this one, either with the spend ups of LaMelo and Trey, or mixing and matching some of these different Charlotte guys. Because I like Mark Williams today. I like PJ Washington today. I think I have one Gordon Hayward team out of 20. So this is a team I'm decently targeting. LaMelo Ball will be the one I get the most of in tournaments. Love that low ownership.
Ownership-wise on DK, I'm looking at this game. PJ Washington getting 13%. We're going to get a refresh as far as ownership. Don't take these numbers as gospel. But Washington at 5.7 on DK is a pretty appealing price. He's one of those guys I kind of reference. He's power forward center. Look, you're probably going to be playing him at power forward, not so much at center. Teammate Mark Williams, who, we have projected to play 29 minutes. That job's essentially going to be his. 10% ownership, but it's a slew of centers. This is just the beginning of centers we're going to talk about throughout the slate. There's certainly more on layaway. I do love that LaMelo call. He's expensive, he's pricey, but you're going to get him really, really low owned. We're looking at like 4% or so. You got to pay for it. You only get so many studs. Bobby, how do you feel about LaMelo? The rest of the Hornets, or just general thoughts as far as this game? Feel free to jump over to Atlanta as well.
Oh, you're muted, Bobby.
Oh, sorry about that. It's first NBA show, Dean. First NBA show.
Yeah, Mark Williams. This is why we should have done Go ahead. Sorry.
Mark Williams, my favorite Hornet at 5.3. I have him at 14%. From there, it's LaMelo. I have him 2x the field at 8%. And then currently, Gordon Hayward, I have at 4%. Yeah, those are the 3 that I'm going to kind of key in from this game. Like TJ said, if you wanted to play PJ Washington at 5.7, I think that's fine. I'm not getting a ton of PJ Washington currently, though.
I'm kind of surprised that both you guys like Gordon Hayward, and I know I'm kind of rounding up because, like TJ said, he's just got him on one lineup, and Hayward should be fine. But is he going to really be the guy I need on a 12 gamer? Most likely not. He's probably as healthy as he's going to be all season long, so I guess you can give him that. I suppose he's fine. The price is fine, but and he's one of those if I land on it, so be it, I guess. But not somebody I'm seeking out necessarily. Rozier, I think, is a really strong play at 7.3.
That was it. That was exactly it, Dean. Is that the one lineup I have him? It also has Trae Young, and I needed I had $5,700 remaining for a small forward.
There you go. Yeah. Did you hand build? Was that what you're talking about, or no?
No. I used the optimizer, and then like hand built in some like a couple skinny stacks and run backs.
What about Atlanta, TJ? Again, you got to pay for what you want there as far as Murray, as far as Young. I'm not here to besmirch or discourage it, but they are pricey. I think Okungwu is kind of interesting, but the problem is just, again, not to keep saying this, the centers thing, but there's a huge opportunity cost at centers, and they just paid him. There's already rumors of like Capella getting moved at some point. I think both those guys, who knows how they chop up those 48 minutes. And if it's just like 24, maybe both are just kind of worthless. But he's like a large field dart that could be he can go like 15, 15, 4 or something like that. But what do you have as far as Atlanta, TJ? And how much are you prioritizing players like Young and Murray?
I have 0 DeJounte Murray today, and Trae Young I feel pretty similarly as LaMelo Ball. Super low ownership, and the ceiling is there. And so I'm getting to both of those guys in 2 lineups apiece in the 20. I like them as tournament plays. I'm not getting to them a ton, but it's still going to be well over the field getting to them at like 10, 15%.
Bobby, Atlanta?
I currently don't have any Atlanta. I feel like a lot of them are mispriced, and just for the way the slate is, I know it's the highest total game on the slate. If you want to run it back, that's fine, but currently I'm not getting to any. Pretty much how my teams are constructed.
It's tough. It's tough to get Trae Young, but like certainly he has a ceiling. He can put up, he can put 40 points in the bucket, just points, and he can drop 15 assists, and like that kind of stuff wouldn't shock us. But it's just, as far as builds are going, for me as well, unless they just kind of go out of my way, like TJ was talking about, making a little bit of a skinny stack, which I don't hate that idea. I think that's kind of interesting. As far as the 12 games tonight, I believe nine are in the first hour block as far as information, as far as backloading and stuff like that, or as far as just kind of like playing the early results is kind of note. There are four early 7 o'clock games. That's the second one. This is just for DFS players only, not for, nobody's watching this one on the old NBA League Pass. Washington, Indiana. Actually, I shouldn't. Indiana is a kind of an exciting team this year. I shouldn't discourage Indiana. That was more a shot at Washington. 235, pretty big number here. Indiana's a 5-point favorite. The Wizards, it's Jordan Poole's world now for Washington. He's going to be chucking like crazy. And as far as like the preseason, very few people, I think, had as usage. I think it was like second or third amongst all players in preseason. They are pretty healthy. Indiana is pretty healthy as well. Both these teams, I think, as far as I can tell, no real injuries of note. Halliburton is spectacular. He's another one of those guards you got to pay for. And I guess we got to talk about this one, TJ, right? Obi Toppin, this is how NBA DFS works, man. And I don't know why he got this goofy price. And this is like, depending on where you're shopping. On DK, he's $3K. And we're assuming he's going to start. We're projecting for around 30 fantasy points. And if you're playing cash games on DK, I think that's one of the first players you put in there. I'm looking at ownership overall, and I think he's like our top 2 or top 3 guys owned. Yeah, we got him at 30%. That's in large field stuff. TJ, how are you handling Obi Toppin? Are you just saying, like, give me that chalk, I'm eating it, and I'll just be different elsewhere? Do you think there's some fragility to Obi?
100% Obi Toppin as long as he's starting. They're giving on DraftKings, they're giving us a pre-square on that 3K price tag for this first game. He's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be some stud player this season just because he's starting, but Indiana is expected to just play at an absolutely stupidly fast pace this year. Halliburton always pushes the ball, and that's something that they're going to be looking to do anyways. So I love Obi Toppin. I'm going to be having him in 100% of my lineups on DraftKings.
How about yourself, Bobby? What are you doing with Obi Toppin?
I'm with TJ. 3K, mispriced. Obi Toppin, lock button. It's NBA. I'm not overthinking it. Just play the 3K cheap value and move on. So yeah.
What's the number that burns you? Like say you don't play him. Say you're fading him. He puts up 25. You're fine, right? You can, he's I guess everything else goes off, like the stuff you get to pay for. Like what's that number? Like you feel like, man, I absolutely had to play Obi. I guess 35, somewhere around there, 32.
Probably over 30.
I would say, over 30.
Miles Turner looks really good. Stop if you guys heard us before. The centers on the slate are spectacular. Washington is a good team to attack for sure. By the way, Indiana last year, top 5 team in pace, as TJ was referencing. Yeah, I like Turner. I like Toppin. I love Halliburton. It's just I don't know if that's where I want my big spend to be. You can sort of run it back on the other side with Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones, speaking of players that are underpriced, he seems too cheap at 4.9 here, TJ. And then there's Jordan Poole, who's just going to take all the shots. Jordan Poole and Kuzma. I know Avdia projects pretty well, which I think he's fine, but like I'm not prioritizing him. He's fine. Tyus Jones is like one of the most popular players in the slate as of our ownership. Let's see. 27%. He's just too cheap on DK at 4.9K point guard only. Is this a potential game stack here, TJ? Because look, you get Obi, and you could play Turner or Halliburton, and then a couple of the Washington pieces, maybe Tyus Jones and one of Poole and Avdia. Is that something you've considered? That's something you explored?
100%. This is I usually wouldn't want to do a big game stack over on a slate this big, 12 games. Like usually I'd want to keep it to 2-1s, maybe a 3-1 on a slate this big, because there's so many other pieces that I'd want to touch on. But I honestly think this could be a game that ends like 135, 127. And all of the players are underpriced in this game. Like this is the most underpriced game on the slate. I think Tyrese Halliburton should be over 10K. I think Kyle Kuzma should be 8K. Toppin should be 4.5, 5K. Avdia probably about 6 this year. Tyus Jones probably about 6 this year. I want to play the entire team, and so I'm gonna make sure I have pieces of this game on every team, and then I also have a couple where it's like, okay, I'm gonna play Tyus, Avdia, Toppin, Halliburton, Turner, Poole, all in the same lineup.
Well, like for Toppin, we're not projecting like a ton of minutes. We're giving him 27, but he's a pretty good fantasy point minute player. We're basically giving him like 25 points as the median projection on DK at 3K, which is why he is popping. The only thing I would caution is just like Indiana does have like other bigs lurking. It's not like they're thin. Like who knows what they'll like, and who, you never really know how like opening night lineups are going to shake up. But like guys like Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith, they're lurking. They're there. Neesmith is there as well, and we have seen in years past, just last year, and obviously Toppin's a new piece there to this Indiana team where it's sort of fluid and based upon how the situation in the game's going. But that's a sort of like deep like GPP conversation, and I'm not sure if I'm going 100% Toppin, but I would definitely not discourage it. Bobby, what your thoughts as far as Atlanta? Nope, wait, hold on. Indiana and Washington we're talking about, obviously. The Washington side, how do you feel about the Wiz?
Yeah, so Obi Toppin's going to be those, obviously, kind of hit on in the top 3K. I'm playing a ton of him. I like this game as a game stack. It's the reason why I'm not getting into a ton of the Atlanta game stack with Charlotte. Just playing Tyus Jones, going to be pretty heavy on him. Currently, I'm at like 51%. Thinking about other guys that I definitely have interest in. I don't know where people are going to be on Halliburton and Turner. I'm currently like between 20 and 25% on both. I like Halliburton if he's 13%. Like I want to at least get 10% more than Halliburton in that situation. Turner, similar situation. Want to have a good bit of him. And then Kuzma, like I think Kuzma at his price tag is just too cheap. So he's another guy that I'm gonna have around 20%. Like these guys, I think the pricing is kind of lax on the slate. Like we're seeing. So yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of exposure to this game currently, unless we get some crazy NBA news. And then I have Jordan Poole around 11%.
I hate to get in the rut where we're kind of recommending everything, and I think it's going to smooth out very, very shortly as far as the games. We're just going to be like, no, not really, no, not really. But this game does, like, the Washington side, you could absolutely play any of those starters: Tyus Jones, Poole, Avdia, Kuzma, Gafford. Their bench is pretty terrible. Indiana, Halliburton. I love the Halliburton call. I want to be over the field in that as well. He's
my favorite spend up on the slate.
Halliburton.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in a similar boat with TJ. Like I think the industry's basically, from stuff I've seen and listened to today, like I think people seem to be under on Halliburton tonight. I think that's a big mistake.
I'm looking at our consensus rankings, myself and Squirrel and Tim, Tasteful Tides, and Chop as well. I have Halliburton ranked higher than everybody else, so I'm in agreement with you guys. Sell the people, TJ. Why is Halliburton your favorite big spend on this slate?
maybe this is a little bit of just recency bias from doing a lot of season-long stuff where he's like a top 3 to 5 pick in all of these drafts. But I honestly think he should be like a 10-5, 11K player, even on this slate where nobody else is like that. Like, I think he should be up beside Doncic and SGA, maybe just a little lower, above Ball, above Trae Young, because Indiana's going to be playing at such a fast pace. He's involved with everything that they do. He shoots, he drives, he passes, he rebounds, he gets defensive stats. I think he's going to be a high 10K player this year, and I want to be playing him basically every night until he catches up to that. And against Washington is one of the best possible spots we could get him.
By the way, there's note coming in that I don't know the context or the question or whatever, but apparently LaMelo Ball could be limited to around 30 minutes Wednesday per Coach Clifford. Of course, LaMelo coming back from the big injury last season. What do we do with that? Like, that could be coach nonsense. That could be based upon the situation. You know, they can push him, they can not push him. He's been jerked around before, LaMelo, as far as his minutes, it seems. He also like finds himself in foul trouble more times than he should. He just takes some bad fouls sometimes. What are we doing with that, if anything? Bobby, are we reacting to that news? Are we pushing Ball down a minute or two? Certainly we can still play him, I think, but yeah, what do you do with that?
I'm going to push him down like 2 minutes and see where, a minute or two, and see where he kind of lands in my stuff. I don't want to be overreactive. I also want to see, like, when we do our next run of projections, where we have him, like where RG's placing him for minutes, and then I'll go from there.
Where did we have him? Like 32, 33, I'm guessing? Where did we have him? We had him at 35, so we're probably going to push him down a couple.
I would push him down at least 2 to 3 minutes. Is
that
too egregious?
Go ahead, TJ.
I might drop him from 2 teams to 1 and just only have him on that Trae Young team with a skinny stack between the two of them, of like, just in case they decide to shoot out with each other and let him go.
So I think my takeaway from this is I like Terry Rozier more, because I like Rozier as is. And if LaMelo's playing 2 less minutes in the court, that's probably 2 more minutes of Rozier playing point guard. So I liked Rozier where he's at. And I think I like him a tick more with this news. And yeah, you can slightly hit Ball as well. But when you consider the salary, Rozier at 7.3, Ball at 9.9. Yeah, I like Rozier first before Ball. That's my thought. Just kind of walking back to that Atlanta-Charlotte game. All right. Anything else here, boys? As far as Washington, Indiana, we like this game a good bit. It feels like one of our favorites on the board. TJ, Bobby, anything else, or shall we move on?
Don't forget about Benedict Mathurin, Daniel Gafford, Denny Avdia. Like, you can mix in all these guys from this game. It doesn't just have to be the main ones like Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Tyrese Halliburton. So guys like, and then of course the underpriced ones like Tyus Jones. So Danny Gafford, somebody that I'm somewhat interested in. Benedict Mathurin, going to be super low owned, and I like getting him as well.
Bobby, you got anything else?
I'm not playing Mathurin. I feel like the guys we kind of covered. I think Poole would be the one that maybe I should be coming in higher on, because I feel like Poole is going to chuck. But I'm
going to take the 33 shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to shoot a lot.
He's the one I'm coming in the lowest currently on.
Let's talk about your Celtics, Bobby. Next up, Boston is in New York. 222.5 is the total. Boston is a 4.5-point favorite. They are fully healthy. We're expecting Horford to come off the bench. I believe he said that himself. Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis is, of course, their new center. Their new big, taking on New York. New York, basically the same team. Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, Mitch Robb. They did add Dante DiVincenzo for what it's worth. Basically no injuries here on both teams as well. This is kind of one of the first games, I think, Bobby, where it's not, do you want to sell me anybody in New York? 12-game slate. Is this the slate where like Randall breaks through, or Brunson? They're all sort of priced basically where they should be relative to everybody else. I don't think I'm playing anybody in New York. I don't play a ton of lineups, though.
Yeah, no New York currently for me. Drew Holiday would probably be the only Celtic I would have interest in. No interest in Tatum. 0 in Brown. I know it's a revenge game for Porzingis. Will not be playing that. But Drew Holiday, I think he's probably the one that I have the most interest in. Just because, like, I feel like at his price, 6'1", it's too cheap. He's probably someone we're playing 1,000 more for maybe a month, 2 months in, or even a couple weeks. So yeah, Drew Holiday's the one that kind of stands out. Maybe I'm overlooking Jalen Brunson, but I don't think I'm going to get to any Jalen Brunson on the New York side. I usually like to play Brunson, but for tonight, I'm just going to let things play out, X out this New York team, and the only player I'm going to have interested on the Celtics is going to be Drew.
Just see a couple of questions over there in chat. Oh, by the way, should mention, I believe, Producer Steve, are we doing another giveaway today? Just confirm that if you don't mind. I think we're doing another giveaway today in the Discord. RotoGrinders.com/Discord has Steve put something to, like, just check the basketball, like a thumb up. Steve, are you with me?
I was not told about this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought there was so maybe not. If you, yeah, I thought there was via through Devin, but now I hate to just sort of throw it out there and now take it away. But if we can kind of make that work, if possible, if not, no worries. We'll do it tomorrow or Friday. I just saw in chats, like, Matt is saying thoughts on Caleb Houston as a punt. I just want to stress this is not yesterday's 2-game slate where you're throwing darts at players that may not even play. We're not projecting Caleb Houston to play a minute. This is a 12-game slate. That's way too ambitious. That's totally unnecessary. A little less egregious, as Eric's asking about Sam Hauser. Like, again, that's too ambitious for me. Just again, 12-game slate. You can't have any whammies. You got to get this right. There's going to be some huge scores tonight.
You have to remember.
Yeah.
You have to remember that pricing so lax. Like this pricing is just not tight at all. Like, there's no reason to be forcing these guys that aren't projecting well, or just basically guys that, yeah, they might be plays 3 months into NBA, or whenever, but they're not going to be plays tonight.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, do not fall into the trap of playing players like that. It's just completely unnecessary. And if Caleb Houston happens to get on the court and he gets like 17 fantasy points, good for him. Is that going to be useful? Not really. Just sort of, I just kind of saw that comment. Just want to be clear. Just important to note, and maybe you're playing yesterday and you probably played a guy or two. You may have played a guy or two that, did not play any minutes. And, start of the year, rotations are kind of tricky to figure out, but that just seems way, way, way too ambitious. TJ, New York, if you got anything, if you want to sell us anybody in New York, by all means, talk about Boston. Holiday does seem a little bit too cheap there on the Boston side, DK specifically. He had a really low usage preseason, kind of an older guy. They're thinking long game. They're still trying to figure out chemistry there in Boston. I think he's fine, but Drew Holiday's another one of those guys where, like, is he going to break the slate on us? Probably not. Maybe he can get like a cheap double-double or something like that, but he's not just, this is Tatum's team, obviously. Brown, and we'll see what Porzingis does as well. It'll be interesting when Boston, like, is down pieces, but with everybody fully healthy, everybody priced mostly where they should be, with the exception of Holiday. Like, I'm not here to discourage anyone from playing Jason Tatum. Of course you can play Jason Tatum. But, like, he's not, like, a priority for me. Do you have any priorities on Boston, TJ?
Nope, not a priority. I'm getting to a small amount of Drew Holiday, a small amount of Kristaps Porzingis, because they are the two guys that I think are underpriced among the Celtics. And then on a team that I have Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, I'm also running it back with a Jalen Brunson because I do think he's underpriced on DraftKings. I don't like the matchup. It's probably going to be a slow defensive game, but Brunson should probably be about 8,500. I do recognize that there are a lot of players who are underpriced. But I'm saying, like, I'm getting him in one of 20 lineups that has Porzingis and Drew on it.
All right. Anything else here, or shall we move on, TJ?
No, let's on to the next.
All right. Last 7 o'clock game is Houston. The Rockets are in Orlando. 220 is the total. Orlando is a 5-point favorite. We're expecting Fultz, Suggs, Franz Wagner, Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. to take on FVV, Freddie VanVleet, the brand new point guard for Houston. Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, free agent acquisition for Houston as well. Jabari Smith, who many many are touting to take a big leap forward this season in Alperen Şengün, who actually didn't have a great preseason, some bad coach speak as well, too. One of those centers that I'm probably not going to be on today. And he's one of that's actually probably not discounted like everybody else is. So he's kind of like priced where he should be, meaning he's like overpriced because he's one that did not get a discount. Injury-wise, there is no Tari Eason tonight for Houston. KPJ, of course, out for, I guess, indefinitely for Houston. Orlando, essentially, I believe they're fully healthy. TJ, I'll throw this one to you. Houston and Orlando. Yeah, what do you have as far as the Rockets versus the Magic?
Not very much. I'm getting to a very, very small amount of very small amount of Jabari Smith. Like you mentioned, a very small amount of Alperen Şengün and a very small amount of Fred VanVleet on the Houston side, but I'm getting to no Orlando players today.
Yeah, I don't really like this game. Like somebody in chat's asking about Banchero. Porter's talking about Banchero, and he's saying he could be a sneaky play. Well, if anything, he's sneaky. It's because he's 8'9". Like that seems kind of pricey for Banchero. Even if he plays well, like he's really got to smash to justify that roster spot. The best play on Orlando is probably Franz Wagner at 6'1". But Bobby, you jump in here. And again, all the setters in the slate, I have a hard time getting the Wendell Carter or Şengün in this game. There's not a lot. I don't have a lot here as far as Houston and Orlando.
Yeah. So for me, I'm actually going to play Şengün. I know he's 6'7". Okay. He's the only one that's not really getting the price increase, or he's the only one who's pretty much priced efficiently, like you said. I just have always been someone who plays. This is going to be like very. He's always been someone I've played, and I think we're a little low on minutes. Like I think he's currently we have him. Where do we have his minutes? We have him at 30.
Around 30.
Yeah, so I gave him 2 more at 6,700. So just looking to see like basically how that goes, because I do think that he's really the big that they kind of need. They're going to have to rely on. Orlando is big, right? Carter, Wagner, they're big in the front court. So I very much so like the Şengün play, just to be like 2x over tonight. He's someone I'm going to be on.
Yeah, it feels weird because I'm a big fan of Şengün, but I feel weird not playing. But I get it, playing him because you think other people aren't, just because he's kind of doesn't get the discount everybody else is getting. So I understand it. Asking about
it's worth mentioning too that Banchero is totally fine to play on FanDuel where he's 7,500. Yes,
I saw Cheyenne in chat just mention that, and I believe ownership is reflecting that. Yeah, he's actually grabbing. Looks like about 19% ownership currently on FanDuel, depending on where you're shopping. Much better play. Good call there, TJ. As far as Banchero on FanDuel specifically, that is the last of the 4:00 games. Next game, 7:30. We have Cleveland versus Brooklyn. 219 is the total. Brooklyn is a 2-point dog here, and man, I just lost all of my pages. I'm about to fix my cam in a second too, so my apologies if you're getting something goofy. Let's see. As far as the Cleveland side,
don't look at your Twitter notifications in case you have this, but because this is fun. But Jalen Brunson is the first Knicks point guard to start back-to-back opening seasons since what year?
Oh, so it's like Charlie Ward or something crazy like that, right? I feel like I've heard this note before. Yeah. I'll say 2000. It's probably not like back to Charlie Ward. That's a crazy thing to say. I'll say 2006.
Bobby, what do you think?
09.
09 is it. 09 is the correct.
Bobby's got his notifications turned on very clearly.
No, that's not it. That was a complete guess.
Chris Duhon was the last point guard.
I swear that was a complete guess. Yeah.
Nice
Chris, former I believe Meansy might even be buddies with him or something, but Chris Duhon was the last Knick to start back-to-back seasons at point guard.
Well, he was a Blue Devil, right? And I think a Pacer as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out to Meansy. Meansy will be on, by the way. If you guys want some Meansy, he'll be on in about let's see, 6:15 as well as Keith Eyster, Roth will be holding that down. Crunch time. Cleveland, they are basically the same team they had last year, except they added Max Strus. Rubio's no longer with the team right now currently. We're expecting Strus to draw the start, as well as assuming Garland can go. Garland is currently questionable. We have no Dean Wade. Dean Wade had the fish, not feeling particularly well, so he's out. Jared Allen is out with an ankle. So Evan Mobley, talking about those centers. Now, the thing with Evan Mobley, he's power forward center eligible. So you probably want to shuffle him to the power forward spot. He looks awesome in this matchup here, just underpriced the absence of Allen. And this Cleveland team is pretty thin pretty quickly, especially if we somehow get Garland out. I'm assuming Garland's in, but can't make that assumption just yet. We'll probably get this before 7 o'clock. Brooklyn, Ben Simmons is back in our lives. He's drawing the start for Brooklyn, we're presuming, as well as Dinwiddie. Bridges, who took a huge step forward last season, Cam Johnson, and Nick Claxton are your presumed starters. TJ, how much do we love Mobley? Because he's going to be super, super popular, but I think it's pretty justified.
Yeah, Mobley on DraftKings deserves to be super popular. He's a cash game play. You do have to maybe worry about that ownership a little bit in tournaments, but you can find other ways to differentiate. I think he's a great play today. Mobley on the one side, and then I'm getting to a little bit of Nick Claxton as a tournament play on the other side, but these are probably two of the top 5 defensive teams in the NBA. I don't really want to play any of them outside of Evan Mobley because he's egregiously underpriced. So Evan Mobley for me, a little bit of Claxton on the other side. Let's see. He was in my pool, but let's see if he actually made any of my lineups because he might not have. No, I didn't actually end up getting to any Claxton. So it's just Mobley to me. I'll see. Am I going to be over or underweight on the field? I'm getting 32% right now of Mobley, so I'll be about even. I see we have lost Dean. So, Bobby, what about you? Any Cleveland or Brooklyn for you today?
I'm with you. Yeah, Dean had I feel like a bad connection there. For me, it's going to be Evan Mobley. Like you, I currently have 67% Mobley. Just because of how egregiously underpriced he is, and he's power forward and center eligible. I guess in larger field stuff, like you would play some Karis LeVert for shooting guard, small forward. I don't want to play him, but the shooting guard position is just very bad. So, yeah, I don't know. That's pretty. And if Garland were to get ruled out, I think maybe he could see some extra usage. But for me, like you, it's mainly Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I think he's just way too underpriced. And there's, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of those guys today, but he should probably be an 8K player, and he probably will be an 8K player as this season goes on. Next game, we have Minnesota and Toronto, a 1-point spread, but another very low total in this one. Minnesota's, according to the books, going to be very good this year. I think their win total's like 46.5. They're projected to make the playoffs. Toronto, not so much, but they lost Fred VanVleet, but they still should be a very strong defensive team. I'm not getting to very much of either of these guys. I think Towns and Naz Reid. Reid isn't going to play that many minutes, but he's got a big point per minute ceiling, and so he's somewhat interesting to me as like a tournament salary saving flyer. But it's really just Karl Anthony Towns for the Timberwolves. And then for Toronto, I'll maybe get a little bit of Scotty Barnes, but Dennis Schroeder is underpriced now, the starting point guard there. I think he's likely going to be the only one I'm really getting to.
Yeah, so for me, it's Barnes. I have him under 10%. I have him at 7%. I think you can make a case for Alexander Walker. He's going to be the point guard for Minnesota, but I'm not getting a ton of him either. Like, this isn't a game I'm totally targeting. I think this is what Dean was talking about, where we'd have a lot of guys early, and then we were going to basically just start skipping games because this next group seems like it's going to be, I don't know. I feel like I pulled a lot of guys from those first 2 games, and now we're in like a dead zone.
What's up, guys? My apologies. My electricity gave out there for a second. Did I miss all of Brooklyn and Cleveland? I assume I did. Is that correct?
You're going to pay the bill, Dean. You're going to pay the electricity bill. That's how it works, you know?
I mean, with your Wi-Fi, Bobby, I don't know if you're in any position. But fair enough. Minnesota, Toronto, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, talking Minnesota, Toronto right now, talking about how it's not very appealing outside of maybe Towns, maybe Scotty Barnes, and then Dennis Schroeder as well.
I hate that Dennis Schroeder is like playable. Like, seriously, it's ridiculous. Like, not to pick on your Raptors there, TJ, but come on, man. This is the best we can do. We can throw out Dennis Schroeder, Demolition Man, for 30 minutes in 2023. He is cheap enough, and like he can put the ball in the basket to some degree, and he can dish it as well, and he projects well. But I don't want to be playing too much Dennis Schroeder, do I? And like you said, the Minnesota side does not look spectacular either. I like some of those pieces, but just not this game overall. The other thing I think is of note, I'm not sure if you touched on it. My apologies if you did, TJ. But the coaching change there for Toronto, Nick Nurse obviously no longer there, and he was spectacular for the players, at least from a DFS fantasy perspective, because the starters, I should say, because they would play like 37, 38, 39, 40 minutes. Probably going to take a little bit of a hit as far as guys like Pascal and Barnes and OG. Talk to me about Schroeder. You mentioned this name. Like, how much are you playing them? You're running out 20 lineups. How much Schroeder are you getting on this 12-game slate?
Let's see. I currently have. Where is he? Is he not listed as a point guard? What's going on here? Do I have no Dennis Schroeder? Oh, there he is. I have 11% Dennis Schroeder, so he's in 2 of my 20 teams.
How is that 11? Oh, he's like, you must have like a single entry contest that he's.
Oh yeah, sorry. It was technically 19 teams that I put through the optimizer, and I did one single entry as well that I just included in my 20 teams. And
Schroeder's on it. That's what it sounds like, at least. If I'm doing my math.
No, he's on 2 of the 19. So.
Oh, 11%. Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
He's the only one in Toronto getting any ownership at all, like just around 15% on DK. Pirtle, 1%. I don't love the matchup there against the bigs in the Minnesota side. And again, it's a slew of centers. He just can kind of go to the back of the line for me. Did you give your thoughts, Bobby, as far as Toronto? I heard you saying as I was coming in, this is kind of like one of those games. So amongst the 12, you're going to power rank the 12 games. How interesting they are individually. Minnesota, Toronto is probably like 9th or 10th, somewhere around there, maybe 11th. It's just not terribly interesting. Although, again, you could play Anthony Edwards, so he's spectacular. He should take another leap this year. But it just doesn't feel like the spot to do so. What did you have as far as Minnesota, Toronto?
Yeah, it would just be Barnes or Schroeder. I think you make a good point with Nick Nurse no longer being there. He's not going to run these guys into the ground, so it's tough to project these guys minutes-wise until we see what their rotations are. On the Toronto side, I'm pretty much off this whole game.
All right, then let's. You had your say, TJ, as far as this game?
Yeah.
Okay. Did we skip Detroit, Miami? We didn't talk about Detroit, Miami.
No, we have not. Saved.
Okay.
I didn't want to do Miami without you, Dean.
I don't want to talk about this team. They're not as good as they were last year, and they were big overachievers last year. I don't want to talk about Detroit. Detroit's one of my least favorite teams to talk about, to be honest. They're kind of a mess as well. Just indefinitely, essentially. But yeah, the Heat, 218. 218 is the total, one of the lowest totals on the board. They are without Haywood Highsmith and Josh Richardson. Both were potential guys that could start. Miami's going to have the Heat culture this year like they've never Heat cultured before, because they've lost several of their pieces, one to the Lakers, one to the Cavs. Didn't really get anything back. They added Thomas Bryant. That's their big acquisition. The rookie out of UCLA, Jaquez, whatever. He's not going to get much run, at least coming out the gate. Jamal Cain was the guy that was playing well in preseason, but again, I don't really think this stuff matters on a 12-gamer where he's the 7th or 8th or 9th, 10th player on this team. Bam, I love Bam, and you think this sort of Bam should probably wreck, Jalen Duran and Bagley and Wiseman, whichever one of those two kind of getting there as far as the backup. But again, he's a center, and centers are pricey. Centers are discounted basically across the board, and he's fine. He's not really overpriced, but again, not a huge discount.
Isn't Jalen Duran also considered the best young defensive big man in basketball?
Yeah, he's super young though. He's 20, isn't he? He's still figuring it out. He's still raw, but yeah, and he's a muscular dude. Let's see, what is his age? I think he is.
He always gets those Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley type comparisons all the time.
He's 19. Yeah, I knew he was the youngest player in the league last year. So he's still figuring stuff out. He turns 20 on November 18th. What were you doing at 19 years old? Man, guys, in the second year of the NBA. Good for him. Thompson, there's some buzz on him preseason-wise, but, this is a check back another day. Cunningham, I think, actually has a good price. You were talking about before, TJ, Fanduel specific. DK, 9K for Cunningham. That's a no-go for me. But on Fanduel, I think he's at least playable at 7.5. If you want to, work him in your script, I suppose you can do that. But I don't have anybody on Detroit. Do you want to sell me on somebody in Detroit? Anybody? That's for the field.
I have 0 Detroits, and the only people I'm considering on Miami are Jimmy Butler and Bam. I also want to throw it back to you, Dean, as a Heat guy. Paul in chat is saying Jacques on Miami should be getting 30 minutes at 3K, and he's viable. We got him projected for 6 minutes. What's your take on Jamie Jacques?
I will take that was their draft pick. I will take the under on 30, well under on 30. Look, he didn't really pop in preseason. Again, this is so unnecessary. Even it's not even worth getting into on a 12-game slate, because even if he plays like 17 minutes, guess what? He's still worthless based in the context of the slate. And I don't think he'll play 17 minutes. I do think like the one interesting guy like right now, like to have your eye on, would be Jamal Cain. But again, not for tonight's slate. I was trying to tell myself a story, Bobby, that like all the Tyler Hero stuff, like if you want to tell yourself a story, like, maybe they want to get Hero going and just, he was the guy that was allegedly being dangled all off season. The Heat wanted to get rid of him. The contract's not spectacular. This seems like a good spot where Hero can kind of have an FU game right out the gate and just drop like 30 points in Detroit, like in the bucket. And he can do that. And also like Miami doesn't really have there's no depth. He's going to get a plenty of minutes. Kyle Lowry's older. We're all older. He's older too. He's still starting by default. Kevin Love is also expected to start. Like Hero can definitely shoot a bunch, and like Butler's fine, just like giving it up. He'll shoot more in the playoffs. And Bam is he's not an alpha when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I could see Hero just dropping a bunch of points in Detroit. That's like one of my GPP considerations in this game. But overall, this game is not terribly appealing. Bobby, your thoughts as far as Detroit and Miami? Can you believe this team is going to knock your Celtics out in the playoffs at some point this year? I don't know how they're going to do it, but they'll do it again.
They'll do it again, yeah. I'm with you on Hero. I'm currently 2x Hero. We have him for 9%. I'm getting him currently at 20%. I bumped this projection a little bit just because, I have the same feeling you do. Like, I think it's a good GBP play. It's a very weak position in construction, shooting guard. Like, Hero's the only guy I really want to play at that position on the slate. Like, there isn't a ton of great shooting guards. There's not a lot of depth. And like you said, I think there is a narrative where they try to get him going, and it's a good spot. It's a good price tag for him at 6'3". Bam has been occasionally passive, especially early in the season. Not Bam, sorry. Jimmy. I think you can make a case for Bam too. Like I'm not playing a ton of Bam, but like Bam should do pretty well versus Detroit's front court. They're going to really struggle to deal with him. It's just that, and maybe I should think about this a little bit more, just because center's so loaded. That's why Bam's getting lost in translation. But if that wasn't the case, I'd probably be trying to get over on Bam in this spot. So maybe I should try to build him in. Just not getting a ton of him right now. But
it's not hard to get over, and not to cut you off, but we're looking at like 2%. So if you just want 4%, you're double the field. It's not hard to do that.
I have one Bam team, one Jimmy team, one Hero team, but I also think it's worth noting Butler is very much in play on DraftKings, not at all on Fanduel. Cade Cunningham, very much in play on Fanduel, not really much at all on DraftKings.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We've talked about Miami and Detroit enough. Let's see. We got OKC in Chicago. This is a fun game, and also this is another one where DK kind of goofed on. We'll talk about it. All right. OKC in Chicago, 226 is the total here. Chicago is a 2-point favorite here, which I don't know. That seems weird to me. I don't know. I like the OKC side. I just love this OKC team.
I like basically the under on any Chicago season-long bet. Like, I think they're projected. I think people are expecting them to be way better than they actually will be.
It's the same team. It's like the same guys, and this team kind of stunk last year too. And when was the last time Chicago was made a move or made a trade? They love to be like the seventh worst, right in the middle. They just want to be stuck right in the middle. I don't understand the way the Bulls are organized. Again, the way they're ran, but we don't have time to get into that conversation. I agree with you. I'll take the under, and I like the over on OKC. So maybe that's why I like the Thunder. They're not tanking anymore. They're kind of where they're at. Like they're good, and they have room to grow. With Chet Holmgren back, SGA, Giddey, Dort. Well, Dort not so much, but he's there. Jalen Williams was just spectacular last season. This OKC team is ascending, and the Chicago team at best is plateaued. As far as injuries, the other Jalen Williams, the one that doesn't matter so much, not playing. Poku's out as well. Lonzo, once again, out for the season. Terrible news for him. But I think one of the big conversations here is salary. This is our world here. Who cares how well the Bulls may or may not be run, Bobby? We got Zach LaVine at 6'8" on DK. Like, what is that price? DeMar DeRozan at 7'1". What is that price? And Vuk is 6'9". That's a nice price. But do you want to have 3 Bulls? But all those prices to me look really, really good. And Kobe White has basically locked down that starting job there for the point. Doesn't mean that can't shuffle around. Like, they're going to bring in DeSumo and Caruso and those kind of guys. And Torrey Craig is still lurking. I don't know how many minutes he actually ends up playing. But the Chicago pieces here, Bobby, I think they're really they're just too cheap. They're too cheap here tonight.
Yeah, I'm getting a ton of LaVine. Like you said, shooting guard, small forward eligible. Do a lot of things with him at 6'8". Should probably be like 1,500 to 2K more expensive, I would say, in terms of his price tag. The issue is, like, I was getting DeRozan earlier and Vooch. I just whittled it down to LaVine because I don't want to get too many of those guys. And then, well, I'm currently getting 14% DeRozan, but Vooch has come out of my pool a little bit just because I don't want him negatively correlating with LaVine if I'm playing a ton of LaVine. It's tough. You never want to play all 3 of these Chicago guys. You got to pick 1 or 2. But I would imagine that I'm going to make a rule where it's going to be at most 1, and LaVine's going to be the priority.
TG, how do you feel about these Bulls? DK specific, as far as his pricing, it's a little bit goofy.
Exact same. I have the exact same rule, and I also am getting to LaVine more than anybody else. He is my second highest owned shooting guard behind Desmond Bane. Actually, he's tied. It's LaVine, Jordan Poole, Brandon Ingram. I'm getting all the same amount of each, and Talen Horton-Tucker. I'm getting the same amount of all of them today, but I like LaVine quite a bit. He's my favorite Bull, and all of them are underpriced. DeRozan, LaVine, Vooch, all 3 of them are in play. And then on the other side, the only way I play 2 of them is if I'm running it back, and I do really like the other side of this game. SGA and Holmgren are 2 of my favorite tournament plays on the slate.
Yeah. So Halliburton versus SGA is kind of a question for me. You said before you like Halliburton more, SGA a little bit more expensive, but I'll probably have some more correlation. I guess you can correlate both of them as far as a little bit a game stack. I'll play some Bulls. I'll play some Wizards as well. But TJ, as far as your big spends when it comes to the guards, you said Halliburton 1. Is SGA 2? Is he on the podium for you?
In terms of big spends at guard, it is Halliburton 1, and then I have the same amount of Trae Young and SGA.
Yeah, and I guess we'll kind of touch on
and Luka. Sorry, Luka's above both of them. SGA would be 3. It'd be Halliburton, Luka, SGA.
All right, Bobby, your thoughts as far as the Thunder?
Yeah, I think it would be just Chet for me. I just don't know where to project him because I don't know. Like, it's such a wide range of outcomes for both him and Wemby, and that's the difficulty that I'm having. Currently, we have him for 32 minutes. What's the projection we have on him currently?
32 minutes, about 33 fantasy points on DK. You can throw a power forward, which makes him more playable. He's not center only on DK.
Yeah, I was getting him at 7%. My last run, I got him at 3. I don't know. I might bump him and just try to force getting to him because it's not going to be difficult to get. Well, we have him at 7. We 7% the field. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna bump him a little bit and see if I can get over on the 7%.
I mean, we're gonna get another ownership update, but like where we're at right now on SGA, I can't believe we have him at 1%. Like that seems outrageous to me. Like that's got to come up, right? Am I wrong in saying that, TJ? Like he's gonna be higher than 1%.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be higher than 1%. There was a couple wacky things yesterday too. I think as the season goes on, they'll normalize a bit more, but I do think SGA will be a very contrarian play. With Luka, with Halliburton, with inexpensive guys like Tyus Jones, other contrarian options like LaMelo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, Fred VanVleet, I think SGA will be going very overlooked tonight.
All right.
Like I bet sub 5%.
Let's move on. We have 4 games left. Just trying to figure out the pacing. Like 4 games left. We have crunch time coming out in 20 minutes. Andy Means, y'all know Andy Means. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth will be hosting it. And of course, you have Keith Eyster. Eyster will be talking some GPP plays. 4 games left. Next up is
before we even get to the next game, we got 450 people watching and only 40 likes. I don't have a Spidey Bomb version for NBA. I'll take options in the chat. If somebody has some ideas of like, you want somebody who's going to score 30 points, you want somebody who's going to smash at low ownership, tell me the stipulations of what kind of plays you guys are looking for, and we'll make up ourselves a little bit of something. But in the meantime, let's just hit this like button. Like I can't consider giving anything away until like we're at bare minimum like 100, 150. We got almost 500 people watching. This should be an easy 250 likes. So keep smashing that like button. We'll think of some things to give away, some type of picks, and hopefully we can get these likes up.
Houston officially starting FEV, Green, Brooks, Smith Jr., and Şengün. Cam Johnson expected to be on a minutes limit per Coach Vaughn. He was dealing with that hamstring in preseason. Let's talk about New Orleans and Memphis, the other 8 o'clock game. We have a 224 total. New Orleans is a 2-point dog here at Memphis. Memphis, super, super thin now. We know John Morant obviously out for the first 25 games. They lost Aldama. Brandon Clark is out to at least Christmas or something like that. He's out for a while. And then Steven Adams. They lost Steven Adams for the entire season with that knee. Newly acquired Marcus Smart. We're presuming he's going to draw the start alongside Desmond Bane, Williams, Triple J, and then Xavier Tillman. Bane and Triple J are going to be asked to do a lot here, and they are fully popping here, TJ. They both look spectacular. I feel great about them. The only hiccup you want to tell your story about Triple J is what if he gets in the foul trouble? He's had those issues in the past. He's been better at that, but also Zion. Zion's is a tough cover. I don't know how much he's going to be tasked with guarding Zion. Maybe they kind of scheme him away if they sort of consider the same sort of option there, because they really desperately need Triple J and Bane. Bane, by the way, monster usage in the preseason. He's going to be chucking for sure. Both these guys look like they're in the cash game pool. TJ, where are you at as far as the Grizz? I guess Bane and Triple J are really popping. Are they popping for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. Bane especially. JJJ I do like as well. I like him a lot, but there's just a lot more. It's like Bobby's mentioned a lot. This small forward shooting guard position isn't anywhere near as strong as the power forward center positions. So Jaren Jackson Jr. I like, but I'm getting to a lot more Bane because of his positional eligibility.
TJ, we don't have time to get into this, but I'm reading in the chats. Congratulations are in order, TJ. Why would you drop this news on a 12-game slate? I mean, I
was just responding to a joke in chat. Then it kind of reminded me after that I haven't actually told many people from RG yet that I'm going to be, my wife is pregnant and we're going to be having a baby in 5 months. So yeah, that's happening.
Awesome. Congrats. Does this mean I have to send you another gift that never arrives? Is
that this one better arrive is what I'm hoping.
Unbelievable. I'm not going to be at the, all right. Send me the thing, send me the link, but that's awesome. Congratulations to yourself and the family. Bobby can tell you, Bobby loves being woken up at 1 o'clock in the middle of the night. I'm sure he's got some, I was going to say horror stories. Definitely. It's worth it for sure. Right, Bobby?
It's worth it. I'm actually, I guess I'll break the news too. 5 months, same kind of deal as TJ. What's March? Is it March?
Yeah, end of March.
What?
I'm at the beginning of March. Yeah, my girlfriend's pregnant too. I don't know. You're gonna get some sleep, TJ. I can tell you that much. I don't know how I'm gonna do too, but yeah, it's a lot.
Spider-Man's not gonna play itself.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I got to finish it beforehand.
Congratulations, Bobby. Oh my God. Anybody else in the chat want to confess anything? For the record, I nothing for me. I got nothing.
Come on, man.
I wish I could run up you, but
wait a sec. Do you know what it is, TJ? Yeah.
No, we haven't checked into that at all. We just we got confirmation of heartbeats and all the healthy stuff, and other than that, we're waiting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No,
Congratulations
man.
to
Yeah.
everybody all around.
You too.
First time dad. It's a lot of fun. It's also it's tough. It's tough work, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, I know. We're mentally prepping as we go.
Yeah. But narrative straight though, like first game back though, you guys are gonna crush on DFS, right? But let's circle the calendar for that one for sure.
Dean and I are gonna have hot, Bobby and I are gonna have hot March and Aprils.
Yeah.
Bobby, what do you have as far as the Grizz? You know, are you leaning into the chalk that is Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr.? They both look really good, for rightfully so. As far as
I guess I'm currently the opposite of TJ, where I have more Jaren Jackson at 6'6", but then I definitely have a lot of Bain too. Like I'll be over on both. On the New Orleans side, I'm not getting really anything. Xavier Tillman is a guy at 5K you can play as well. Like center's loaded, like we've talked about though. So don't go crazy. I think it's more just Jackson and Bain that I would be trying to get to the most in this game. But a lot of people are going to be trying to get to these two guys. If you're trying to play some GTO and get away from Jaren Jackson, Dean, I think you brought up a really good point. Like he could easily get into foul trouble here. I do think they'll scheme him away. He has gotten better at not being so handsy, but there's always that risk. So just you can think through it. For me, I'm just going to play him over currently the field because I just think he's that good of a play at that price. Marcus Smart's another person there that could steal some shots from. I don't think Marcus Smart's going to do the Dylan Brooks thing, but he could, right? So maybe he steals some usage from Bain. His assist prop was pretty high earlier. I was looking at it, so they expect him to be like a distributor. I don't know. The two I would mainly prioritize is Jackson and Bain.
I want to get in some Xavier Tillman too. I saw Donnie mention him in chat, but he's also somebody I'm getting to a decent amount of today. No Steven Adams for the season, no Santi Aldama yet. I'm getting about 15% Xavier Tillman. I like him in tournaments.
Yeah, there's so little depth there as far as center. I guess they could play Triple J at center, especially if like Valanciunas is not in the court. But like, it's like Kenny Lofton, kind of a big boy, but Roddy, there's just not much as far as bigs on that Memphis side. So we're giving 32 minutes to Tillman, assuming he can dodge foul trouble. Again, I hate saying the same thing over and over, but there's a big opportunity cost at center. And if Tillman puts up like 25 points at 5K, it's like not going to break you, but it's also that's not going to make you. That's not what you want. But he's also a guy that can put up like 12 and 15 and like 4 stocks. So I do think he's pretty interesting. Bobby, did you give any thoughts? You said nothing on New Orleans, right? TJ, you got anything as far as New Orleans?
I actually do. I'm getting to some Brandon Ingram. I like Brandon Ingram quite a bit today. I'm getting about 20% of him. CJ McCollum, I think I have him in one of my lineups, but I also really like Zion Williamson for tournaments today. Power forward eligibility. I think he's going to be super low owned. Everybody's going to want to wait and see with him. I really like myself some Zion Williamson in tournaments today.
All right, 3 games, about 12 minutes to knock him out before crunch time comes in. Got to pick up the pace a little bit. Sacramento, Utah, 233.5 is the total. It's high. It's tight as well. Sacramento, light the beam. They're just 2.5 favorites here at Utah tonight. As far as the Sacramento team, they're expecting Keegan Murray to take a big step forward this year. A lot of hype on him in the offseason. Injury-wise, it's just Trey Lyles. Utah appears to be fully healthy as well, so lots of options there. I know, TJ, you mentioned THT. He is the presumed starter as far as, the point guard is going to be the starter coming out the gate for Utah. We're expecting Clarkson, THT, Markkanen, John Collins coming over from Atlanta. I'm not really in on Collins. I'm just not buying it, but we'll see. I'm curious to see how it works out. Kessler is my favorite play on the Utah side, but again, he's a center, so how much can I possibly get? I like him in the old vacuum. TJ, Sacramento, Utah, and let's try to be concise. I'll be concise as well.
Sacramento side of things, De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray, maybe some Domantas Sabonis. I'm okay with all of them, but not getting to a lot of Sacramento here. Walker Kessler, John Collins, I like both of them quite a bit, and then Taylor Horton-Tucker is probably my favorite play in the game.
Bobby, knock out both sides this game.
Yeah, it's going to be more Talon Horton-Tucker and Walker Kessler for me. I have a good bit of THT currently. I think it's more of a pricing thing. He's just in a good range. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible, and he's priced pretty well for this slate. It's not the greatest play. Like I don't feel like I could try to get away from it, but I'm just playing it to play it. Walker Kessler, I have around 11%, 5'6". It's a good price tag. He's obviously a center. You kind of hit on that, Dean. Like there's an abundance of centers on the slate. Versus Sabonis, though, I think it's a good matchup for him, I would imagine. And then, yeah, getting a little De'Aaron Fox, but not much, just around 5% right now. Not much from the Sacramento side. From a
I'm like you,
fantasy.
Bobby, by the way. Bobby, you're talking about THT. Like, I don't want to play him, but like he's really cheap, and he's just kind of also the multi-position eligibility, shooting guard and small forward. He makes stuff work. I think there is some fragility to him.
Of course, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned that he might turn the bad chalk, but
I'm worried about it
too.
too. I'm definitely worried about it. Because
Yeah.
I'm playing, I have a pretty high ownership clip currently on him, or exposure clip to him. So I have to see like if I really want to run that by the time lock comes.
We currently have him projected at 20%. And like again, they have other options. They have Sexton, they have Clarkston, they have Chris Dunn. There's a lot of guys. I'm looking at, we only have one Jazz player projected more than 29 minutes. That's Markkanen. And then, Clarkson, Collins, THT, Walker, Kessler at 29 minutes. We're giving a lot of depth usage, a lot of usage to the depth. A lot of bench usage to the Jazz players. Like, not that you can roster them, but like Olynyk's playing 19 minutes, Sexton off the bench getting 25 or so. That even Dunn taking 13 minutes or so. I'm gonna play some THT, but I don't think I love it. Dallas, San Antonio, 2:30. The back half of the prime time doubleheader. The debut of Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs are 5-point dogs here versus Dallas. We don't know about Luka. Luka is currently questionable. He did go through practice, so that makes me think he's more likely to play than he's not. Jaden Hardy was upgraded. He's expected to play. Dwight Powell also upgraded. Both those guys expected to be available. Devontae Graham is suspended for San Antonio. Is out, I think, the first couple games of the season. Zach Collins, last we saw, he is still questionable with his illness there for San Antonio. If he doesn't go, I imagine Wembanyama will shift to the 5, which is so weird that I guess he's the 4, but like positionless basketball 2023. We talked about this pre-show, Bobby. Talk about the Mavs and Luka and the plan as far as Luka. And also it's worth noting this game is 9:30 in the East Coast. When do we get that Luka news? If we get it, how it certainly affects things when it comes to building your lineups and adjusting. But where are you at currently when it comes to the Mavs and San Antonio?
Yeah, so I'm waiting for Meansy to really break down Wembanyama for me. It seems like he likes him in terms of his RotoGrinders Q tags, or I don't want to say Q tag, but his RotoGrinders tags. Wemby isn't queued by any means, but I think he's another guy like Holmgren who has a wide range of outcomes. I just want to make sure I have the correct projection. I'm currently not getting a ton. So I'd probably have to bump that up. In terms of Luka, prior to like him being questionable, I was getting a lot of him. And then the second he went down, like I reran some stuff, I dropped his projection, and now I'm not getting as much. I'm still over the field, but not getting as much as I was earlier. I think he's going to play, so I might just totally try to jam him and get over on what I think is a discounted ownership clip currently than what he should be relative to that news, because like prior to that news, I was getting him a ton. I just don't, I think that if he's a full go, I know he has the thigh issue. It's been lingering. It's something you could consider, but if everyone's thinking that, I'd probably just rather play the best play. We have all the value in the world in the slate. Like, I don't know. I might try to get significantly over on Luka when it seems like the industry's kind of going the other way at this point. As
far as Wemby, I think you're supposed to embrace the variance and people are trying to project him, and our projection team does a great job. But I don't know how you could feel great with your projection for Wemby because we've never seen anything like this guy. We're giving him 30 minutes for what it's worth. I like him better as far as the scoring system on FanDuel, just because he can rack up 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. Stocks obviously get more points over there. We're 3 as opposed to the 2 on DK. And also, he's 7-7 on FanDuel and 8-5 on DK. Certainly, of course, you can play Wemby on DK, but I think he's better played on FanDuel. TJ, jump in here as far as Dallas and the Spurs.
I think Wemby is going to be the defensive player of the year. I think he's going to be the rookie of the year. And I think he is the best play of the slate on FanDuel. He surpasses Tyrese Halliburton on FanDuel for me, and then Halliburton's the second best play on the slate. I think he's even totally in play on DraftKings as well. I have about 25% Wembanyama today. I'm way over the field. I love Luka on the other side. That's one of my favorite little stacks on the slate is a Luka and Victor Wembanyama stack. And then I also really like Jeremy Sohan today, starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs. Anytime you get a big guy like that starting a point guard, I always find it very interesting to play for DFS. So Sohan and Wembanyama on the Spurs, Doncic on Dallas. That's all I'm playing for either team, but I'm playing a lot of those 3 players.
Yeah, I'm good messing with the Sohan on DK, especially at 4.7. He's also small forward eligible. Not just point guard, but point guard small forward, which is kind of goofy how that works. Every once in a while you get those kind of players. 13% is what we're seeing his ownership. And if that holds, I think that's a pretty strong number. He won the starting job in preseason. One more game before we yield to crunch time. It is the Clippers. The Clippers are taking on the Blazers, whatever is left of the Blazers. We're looking at a pretty big line here. 9-point favorites, 226 is the total. We already have an official lineup there for Portland. Scoot Henderson, the rookie, Simons, Bible, Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. Who's, by the way, one of those centers is not going to get played. Maybe he just he's out of all the guys taking the shots there in Phoenix. Maybe he does this thing here in Portland. Somebody's got to score. You're not going to get shut out. It's not like a bad baseball team that's going to put up one run. The Blazers are going to put up, I don't know, 98, maybe 105, maybe 112 points, something like that. And the Clippers, far as I know, everybody's healthy. That matters. Well, Terrence Mann's not going to play, and Bones Highland, I believe, is questionable. I think Russ is kind of interesting. This feels like a team he can just kind of do his thing, and he was better since arriving for the Clippers last season, as opposed to how terrible he was for the Lakers. But I'll yield to you, TJ. Portland, Clippers, what do you got?
I have Scoot in one lineup. I have Anthony Simons in one lineup, and I'm playing nobody else from this game.
Bobby?
Yeah, Scoot. I'm currently getting at 3%. I have no Simons, although his points prop looked pretty good. Maybe I might have to get a little bit more Simons. No interest in the Clippers. In the last game, I have Sochan as well. But yeah, I just wanted to say that for the Spurs, Sochan was the other guy I was getting a little bit. But yeah, for this game, it's really just Scoot. I guess you could take a shot on Ayton if he comes in and kind of gets more usage than he did in Phoenix. But we have so much opportunity cost at center. I just would kind of wait and let it play out. But that's pretty much it for me on this slate. For this,
I like his new nickname. I don't know how you adjust that as far as in the projections, but Dominating is pretty good. I don't know if he will be.
That's his new nickname?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I believe that's how he introduced himself to the Portland media, which, I thought that was spectacular. And the Clippers, are we just not going to play Kawhi and Paul George? And the field isn't. Westbrook's the most popular play here as far as the Clippers, and I think the price is fine. Maybe you get yourself a cheap triple-double. You never really know. It could be ugly sometimes, but this Portland team, they're not going to be good. They're going to be bad defensively. They're going to be a bit of a sieve. And this feels like a team like Westbrook can kind of do his old school thing against. So I wouldn't besmirch that, but otherwise and you might see we're projecting Powell to start. You might see Covington start. There's Batum might draw to start. I just can't imagine getting excited about any of those guys in this 12 gamer. Clippers are plenty deep, and even if they start, they still might play 25, 26 minutes. So not much to get excited about there. Did you have a feel it in your plums play, Bobby? I know We've been doing that. Chop's been doing that on the Showdown shows. Butto Jenkins, one of the users in chat's always asking about it. That means like you got to be a little bit ambitious, right? You're not telling me you don't feel like Desmond Bain. Everybody feels Desmond Bain in their plums. Who do you feel in the plums?
Yeah, Tyrese Halliburton from this Indiana team. I just think it's a really good spot for him. He's going to be the guy that I'm going to be targeting. That game is a game I think we can target as well. The totals moved up on both sides. I'm pretty positive. 2 points on both sides since the open. I like the Indiana and Washington game. My favorite play is Tyrese Halliburton.
TJ, how do you feel about Bobby stealing your pick? That was your pick, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm also feeling Tyrese Halliburton in my plums. I think he's going to be the highest scoring player on the entire slate today. I'll throw out Victor Wembanyama as my other feel it in my plums play. He's going to be a 10K player this year.
We got to get a nickname for Wembanyama. Let's see if we can kind of work on that. I'm sure Twitter's all over it as well. Yeah, we could do better. Wemby, really? That's what we're doing? That's his nickname, Wemby?
It's easy to say. Well,
we can say it that, but there's got to be. We need like an addendum. We have to add something to that, I suppose. Maybe Kevin Roth, maybe Andy Means, maybe Keith Eyster. Maybe they have a nickname. Maybe somebody in chats. I wonder, has anything been floated out there? I've not seen anything as far as a nickname. I think LeBron called him an alien, but it's just I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch that game. All the basketball, but that's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Roth, what's going on? How are things in your world?
This is so good. This slate is amazing. We're back. Life is good, man. I'm pumped. And by the way, if you're as good as Wemby, you don't need a stupid nickname. You're Wemby. That's that. It's like Jordan is Jordan, LeBron is LeBron, Wemby is Wemby. That's that.
Since KD did the Slim Reaper, maybe we can just give that one to Wemby.
Well, Jordan is Air Jordan, and LeBron is the king. Like you've heard.
Does anyone real? Yes, those are their nicknames, but really, you just call them LeBron,
or
Jordan,
just
and
MJ.
Wemby. Yeah.
I have a question for Means before we get out of here, because I don't know if he was tuning in to Crunch Time earlier, but it's a fun piece of trivia. Jalen Brunson is the first Knicks point guard, I guess for Roth too, because he loves Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the first Knicks point guard to start back-to-back seasons since who?
I don't know, Charlie Ward?
That's what I was Dean's first guess too. Chris Duhon.
Yeah, how did I not get that one?
Chris Duhon in 08 and 09 was the last back-to-back season starting point guard for the Knicks.
Oh man, those were the days. Bringing me back.
All right. Oh, by the way, we don't have time to get into it. But Roth, how is parenting going these days? Because TJ is going to find out. News has been broken on the show, and Bobby's going to find out again in case he forgot. Both of them.
Oh,
very fertile.
Congratulations. That is fantastic news, guys. Congrats. It's going horribly, so good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
On that note, all right, let's step aside and get out of here, make way for crunch time. That was TJ. That was Bobby. I was Dean. And Roth, take it away.
Excellent stuff. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is indeed crunch time. It is the moment that you have been waiting for, and certainly the moment I've been waiting for. We're back in these NBA streets. We got like 27 and a half games or something tonight. It's fantastic. The slate is incredible. And we are joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got one, Mr. Andy Means. What up, Means?
It's been a while, Roth. I can just look at you, man. You're just like so happy.
I'm so pumped. Honestly, for those who are unaware, I don't love baseball. It's stressful and I don't like the sport. And I freaking love basketball. So I love getting on here and shooting the shit about some hoops. And the slate is great.
Yeah, you can like see when you're on the MLB shows, there's like this weight sitting right here on you. Yeah. And now I don't see anything.
Doesn't exist. It's gone. Yeah. I'm thrilled, man. I'm pumped. We got my guy Keith Eyster in the house as well. What up, Ice?
Not much, man. Big slate here. We got the real deal. It's back. Very excited. My favorite thing was your reaction when you popped on the stream. It's like Roth knows it's not baseball season anymore. It was
That's
great.
Right. We're here, man. Yeah. How are you guys feeling about this slate? I feel like I have the nuts, but then looking at pricing, maybe everyone feels like they have the nuts. Is it a little easy, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way when I was tinkering, but then you look at the options and everyone just feels like $700 too cheap, which is kind of like an opening night thing to make everyone love what they're building. Kind of you see that in week one a lot in NFL too. So Yeah, I think everyone's going to feel that way. And there's just, I mean, I alluded to it a little bit in expert survey, but you should not feel bad about, finding alternatives, because there's like, if there's someone who's just overwhelming chalk, which I'm sure there will be, as we'll talk about, except for like Obi Toppin maybe, but like there's just stuff you can get to that's good, and that's not always the case on these slates. So you just got to cast a wide net, I think.
Like the 5, 6, and 7K value are all guys that should be like 6, 7, and 8. Like you said, everyone's just a little too cheap, and that range in particular, big men, power forward, centers, just blowing my mind. I just went to hand build like 1 or 2 lineups, and 15, 16 lineups later, I was still plugging in dudes I love.
And there's like barely any like expensive guys because they all played last night or they play tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's a weird slate. We won't have many like this, I don't think.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. But hey, let's not just talk about how great it is. Let's give the people some winning lineups. That is the key. How many lineups did you add Brunson in? Out of my 16 or 17 hand build lineups, only one Brunson, I'm proud to say. I did one for the bit. I did one for the bit.
One for the bit.
Yeah, he's in a tough matchup, and I think next game I will go all in on my boy. All right, hey, let's talk about the slate a little bit. Means you want to dive into some of the content side of things? We like to start with our sponsor site, FanDuel.
Yeah, and just real quick on injuries. Luka's questionable, Darius Garland's questionable, and Zach Collins is questionable. I mean, we're leaning towards all those guys playing. Those are like the main ones. So I'm not planning on having to pivot tonight, which is probably the only time I'll say that all year. But also, we saw yesterday, like, dudes will just get ruled out anyway. So, I think we're going to be fine on the injury front, but famous last words. So I got to ask you, Roth, like, this is your show, man. Like, what are we doing the same way we always do it? Did you should we do FanDuel, me talk, then ice talk? How are we doing it? I don't know.
I think that's the move. We did it. We kind of went right back to that yesterday as we eased into it with the 2-game slate. It went pretty well. So I think you kind of give us some cash thoughts and some tournament tidbits as well. Roll through it on FanDuel. We'll get Ice's tournament takes. Then we'll do the same thing on DK. Then we're going to open up for questions. So make sure you're getting your questions in particular on the RG Discord, where I will be looking first for your questions.
And I'm going to make a pointer for MLB shows. You guys should just do that for MLB shows, because then you can always just look at your radar. You always have to go, okay, now let's go to second base. You should just pass the floor on to them, let them go through their positions, and you can just be looking at radar.
I'm worried that I would just fall asleep. I need to just interject something, when baseball's happening.
Even if it's like a crazy weather day?
Oh, no. If it's a crazy weather day, absolutely. I'm in agreement.
Because I feel bad. You're like going like, oh, I see Dennis. Okay, what's the next visit? What's around the horn? Is it second? Is it third?
If it's a bad weather day, I'm completely lost. Yes. I'm just staring at radar. It's true.
File that away. Right, File that away for next year.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Oh, man, we still got like 37 minutes too. We're good. All right, FanDuel. So let's look at, like, believe it or not, the very first thing when I looked at the FanDuel slate was I was surprised at how efficiently priced it was, given the fact that there's so many new situations. It's easy to make an Obi Toppin mistake like DraftKings did, where they have them just a minimum price. But like, I was very surprised at how efficiently priced it was. So like, there's not a ton that stands out here, and especially on FanDuel. Like, if just like overarching thoughts, like Evan Mobley, 43% on a 12-game slate. Desmond Bain at 8,100, 42% on a 12-game slate. Like, maybe maybe you get burned by one or two of those guys tonight, but like over the long haul, like those are plays. Those are the things where like this guy's projecting for that much ownership strictly because he's a little better than everyone else around him. They're just Evan Mobley's 70. Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, like, Evan Mobley's 7,400 and Wembanyama's like $400 more.
Exactly.
Like, we don't know what Wembanyama's going to be like as a fantasy player yet. Like, we have a pretty good idea, and it's going to be good. But like, he could be one of the best per minute players in the league, and he's 70 whatever hundred, and he's not anywhere near the ownership of someone like Mobley. So like, and Mobley still kind of has to play off other guys. Like, I love Mobley. Like, I have him tagged, I think. So, like, yeah, that's just, I can say that about a ton of different players tonight. So like what I'll talk about is mainly like cash game, primary lineup builds, like single entry type stuff. And I'll start at point guard. Like I think I like Halliburton as a spend up tonight. I don't think I'm in the minority on that, especially on FanDuel where he's like $2,000 cheaper than Luka. Luka's coming off the weird calf thing, so I think it's his calf. Is it quad? I forget. Whatever. Part of his leg is giving him trouble. Maybe it's quad. Yeah, I like Halliburton, so I would be spending up there, and then the cheap stuff is where I like going next. There is like Tyus Jones, is Schroeder, is Markelle Fultz. That's about it. It's like primary stuff. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to point out here for. Oh, I really like Poole. He's 16% and Rozier in the same price range is like 26%. So like Poole could he could just be like, we've seen what he did obviously in Golden State when like the main guys are playing, but he could be like a Trae Young level of rates. Like he could be putting up heavy usage in assist stuff, and we do not know yet. Like we're still so early on into
we know. Meansy, we know he's chucking. that dude's getting up like 15 3-pointers. Like he's coming
we don't
out.
know precisely how much he is chucking, I should say.
That's true.
But yeah, that's the stuff I'm looking at. Like those are just easy pivots, and you're not pivoting to some off the radar. Oh my God, is this guy gonna play? Blah blah blah. Like you're pivoting to a guy we know is gonna play and we know is gonna shoot. So like that's just in general you should be thinking about. Shooting guard. The Bane thing, like it's fine. Like I like him way more on DK where he's cheaper, scoring system suits him a little better. Like in cash games, yeah, play him. But like he's 8,100. We've seen him. We know the opportunity is going to be there. We've seen him fail in situations like this plenty of times. I know because I'm written him up and played him, and it just sometimes it doesn't work, and that's the case with a lot of people. But he also has to probably get Herb Jones. I'm not the biggest guy in how individual matchups or like the person who's guarding you is going to affect you. He's maybe one guy of a handful that you maybe want to consider it because he's so good on the ball. So that's another thing. And that's just another reason, like you're not playing Bane because he's going up against Herb Jones. You're probably not playing him because he's 42%. So that's how I feel about Bane. So I'm trying to think. A lot of these guys I just talked about at point guard. Mitchell, he's only 8,900. We saw last year too how him and Garland kind of a lot of times it was like one has it one night, one has it another night, where like one's way over their projection and one's way under their projection. He's only 8,900. Maybe Garland's a little limited, assuming he plays. So that would be a guy I'd be looking at as a spend up on FanDuel. Trying to see if I'm missing any about it. I like Levine in that similar like Rozier, Desmond Bane range. Like it's a little more obvious of a play on DK where he's much cheaper, but like that's another perfect pivot off of Bane. Like quickly as someone cheap. So let me go over to small forward real quick. Avdia is probably the preferred salary saver here. I don't think I mentioned THT at shooting guard. I think he's right in there. I prefer Avdia a little bit. Slow-mo, assuming he starts, I think he'd be okay, but like this isn't a great position, believe it or not. So like another reason like Bane, and I guess a lot of the reason maybe Bane is projecting for so much ownership is just because plays around him aren't great at his position. Like you're looking at some thin RG values at shooting guard, small forward. So it's kind of easy to see why the projected ownership is so high. But like Paolo, 7,500, I think he's definitely an appropriate pivot. Let's see. That's probably I like Ingram as a spend up as well. 8,200, $100 more than Bane. Very acceptable straight line pivot off of Bane. So that's it. Generally, power forward. Yeah, play Mobley and cash games, but like I just the Wemby thing, man. I really again, I'll allude to the experts that I wrote about. I think he might be a little bit like unprojectable. I made up a word, but like I think he will be hard to project. Like Ice, you can speak to it in a little bit, but like you do our projections, like he could have like the best block rate ever in the history of the league for all we know. And like you can't project that right now.
Yeah, he could get 7 stocks, and on FanDuel, that's massive. And that's not crazy for him to get 7 or 8 stocks. Like that is legit viable if he plays 30 minutes.
And it's so hard to project that right away without him ever playing a real NBA game. He could have like one of the best shooting percentages like inside the restricted area ever. Like when he gets the ball in there, maybe not right away just because he's so lean, but like the guy's kind of tall and he can dunk without jumping. So so he might shoot a good percentage when he gets the ball down there. And like on the break, like he's always going to finish. So like I just think I don't know how people are handling that because like projections, people love projections. I love projections, but everyone uses them. Everything's pretty much the same. Like Mobley's 43%, and I'm looking on FanDuel, and Wemby is not anywhere close to that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what if people are just like buying the hype and want to roster Wemby in the first game, if they're just following projections. So like, I don't want to say too much after power forward because I think you play Mobley in cash games and you play Wemby in tournaments, and like that's just a very easy one. Mm-hmm. And same with like Jaren Jackson. Like I think you would probably play him in cash games over Wemby, and you play Wemby in tournaments. So that's what I'm looking at as far. Those are my thoughts on the expensive guys, the cheap stuff. Zach Collins, Xavier Tillman, Abdiaz, power forward eligibility. I mentioned slow-mo. I like PJ Washington. I don't think he's kind of in the middle of those price ranges. I was talking about some 5K guys and some like high 7, low 8K guys. PJ Washington right in the middle of that. I don't think anyone's going to play him. So getting blown up with alerts. I hope I didn't miss anything important because I'm rambling. And then center, 2 guys I already mentioned, Mobley and JJJ. Zach Collins is there. I like Mark Williams. I like I was looking at Vooch, but I like his price tag way better on DK. Vooch is a fine spend up. Sabonis. I don't have a lot of thoughts here in general, I guess, just because I love that 7-8K range so much with Mobley, Jackson, and Wemby, and that's kind of taking up the bulk of the positions there. So I'll stop talking and let Ice roll here.
Okay, very good. Well, Ice, let's chat here, and I kind of want to start with those ownership guys that Meansy was talking about. These dudes who are coming in at 40% owned, like a Tyus. Where do you stand on these guys tonight when there's so many games and there's so much volatility in game 1 for most of these teams, for all these teams?
Yeah, so I think on FanDuel particularly, the Bane and Triple J thing is an awesome point by Meansy. Like their price tags are not that much under where they should be compared to a site like DraftKings. So I want to make a group where I'm only playing one of those guys in any given lineup. I think a lot of people will start by just plugging those 2. I'm looking for a ceiling in tournaments. I don't care about like finishing middle of the pack. I want to get to the top of a tournament, and I need the ceiling game from one of those 2 guys. Mm-hmm. Of course, they both could do it, but it's much more unlikely than just one of them has a great game and the other one fails. Bane could have an off shooting night. Triple J can get in foul trouble. Like these are things that we've seen multiple times before. On DraftKings, their prices are much better. It's a little more difficult, but on FanDuel particularly, I definitely want that group of only one of Bane or Jaren Jackson. And at the same time, I want only one of Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson. That is taking up so much of the forward ownership that like, and the other plays aren't other than Wembanyama, which we've mentioned several times. There's so many under-owned guys at like the power forward position. So I like that group as well. That just helps get me away from a chalk construction where so many people are just going to plug in Bane, Triple J, and Evan Mobley, and that's how their lineup starts. Mm-hmm. So by grouping those guys together and only allowing one of them into your lineup, you have gotten so far off the chalk construction that you're so far ahead of the field if any one of those guys fails. Tyus is so cheap that I'm having a hard trouble with that fade. Like we've just seen him smash so many times when Ja is out and he gets to start in Memphis. He's got a good matchup here against a fast-paced Indiana team. I have a hard time getting underweight on Tyus, so I definitely want to be overweight on Tyus. It's Dennis Schroeder is the guy who's projecting for a ton of ownership that I don't feel near as comfortable about. So getting underweight on a guy like Schroeder, overweight on a guy like Tyus, and maybe even trying to find a couple of pivots in that range, I think is very viable on this slate. But definitely making some groups to just avoid some of the chalk appearing in my lineups together.
Okay, and you have a choice. We can go position by position here on FanDuel, or for tournaments, we can hold that and go on DK. It's your call, whichever you want to
do. We can do just some quick position by position stuff. The pricing's a little bit different site to site, just because Bane and Triple J are priced up a little bit more on FanDuel. But I'll just run through it pretty quick here.
Let's do it.
All right. So just a couple at point guard here. I mentioned I'm getting overweight on Tyus, underweight on Schroeder. Some of the pivots, Halliburton's been mentioned a couple of times. The guys on the last show loved him. Meansy loved him. I love him. This is a fantastic spot against a bad Washington team. And Jordan Poole on the other side of that game. J3 in chat mentioned how many Wizards is Ice playing. He must know me well. He's listened to stuff before, because, and this is particularly true on DraftKings where top end is going to be massive chalk. Anytime there's chalk, my favorite way to play that is just game stack it. So I'm definitely looking for some Wizards that I can plug in here. Jordan Poole is just jumping off the page as a guy who could absolutely explode tonight. De'Aaron Fox has a fine price. We know he has a ceiling. Let me see here. Down in the cheap range, Scoot Henderson is another exciting rookie that really nobody knows what we're going to see. Like, he could have a massive usage rate here. 6,100. I'm talking about looking at the cheap guys and a way to get off of a guy like Dennis Schroeder. I can find a couple of $100 to get up to Scoot Henderson, and I really like that. Some shooting guards just that we didn't mention. I think I mentioned most of them have point guard eligibility as well. I'm just trying to look and see. Donovan Mitchell has a Q tag. Nobody's playing him. I think that he's a fine play. Moving on to small forward, where obviously we have the Bane and Avdia as massive chalk. Sadiq Bey is getting some ownership. That's too much for me. I would much rather try to find a way up to Paolo Banchero or Brandon Ingram and just kind of flip the build a little bit on those, or just a straight pivot off of Bane is great as well. A pivot I like off of Avdia is Talen Horton-Tucker. He's too cheap, has a very nice role for Utah, but pace up matchup against Sacramento. Zach LaVine is a fine spend up as well. Let me see if I'm missing anyone. Jalen Williams, another cheap guy that I like for Oklahoma City. Don't mind the matchup there against Chicago. Moving on to some power forwards. Let's see here. Xavier Tillman is a guy that I like a good amount. Memphis is pretty thin in the front court. Not a guy that typically plays a ton of minutes, but I don't think they have much of a choice here. So Tillman should see more minutes than we're used to. I like spending up for Sabonis a good amount. Keegan Murray as well, another guy where we kind of expect his role to increase a little bit. Like the matchup there against Utah, like the price. Obi Toppin, nobody's playing here on FanDuel, where he's massive chalk on DraftKings, but he's starting for Indiana. I like him as a cheap pivot as well. And then at the center position, love the matchup for Vooch. Oklahoma City has struggled against bigs for a long time. Another exciting guy that nobody's talking about is Chet Holmgren. I love him tonight. Another guy we just don't know what he's going to do. Haven't seen him before. He could have massive rates as well. Picked at the top of the draft last year, mixed all of last year with an injury. So first time we're seeing him. Another guy that I think projections could be light on just because he has potential to be a massive per minute producer.
Yeah. Okay. Any other names do you want to drop there?
Nope. I think that covers it. Looks like my camera froze. I'm going to jump out and jump back in. That should fix it.
Okay, that's fair. Well, we are going to pivot over to DK in just a bit. But first, as I mentioned, this show is sponsored by FanDuel. Crunch Time presented by our sponsor, FanDuel. Get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed, plus 3 months of NBA League Pass for free when you bet $5. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shout out to our sponsor, FanDuel, making this show free for you guys. And all we really ask, honestly, is that you hit that thumbs up, hit a like, hit a subscribe, because we want eyeballs to keep this show free. That's what a sponsor wants. That's what we want. So hit us with a little thumbs up, smash that like button for us, and let's pivot on over to DK. Means the build here, just, it's so good. It's so, the forwards, the big men, like the power forward centers, there's 8 of them that I want. There's 8 of them. No bullshit. You're muted. Yeah, you've been out of the game.
That didn't take long.
Yeah.
That didn't take long.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone by there. I didn't want you guys to hear what I was saying.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Took 30 minutes. Good job, Means. Yeah, so like DK, yeah, we talked about the top. Like everyone feels good when you plug them in your lineup on DK. So like I think it's still going to result in really concentrated ownership, though. Like, just because the good plays at the position are just good enough, just more good enough. I just made that up, that everyone's going to play them. So, and like when you think about a projection and this guy, let's say, okay, Jaren Jackson is 6,600. I'm talking about 2 chalky guys, but for the example, Jaren Jackson 6,600 projects for 42 fantasy points. Evan Mobley 6,300 projects for 40.5 fantasy points. They're less than 2 fantasy points away. Like, use that as another example between like someone who's pretty chalky and someone who's not. Like, just think of what has to happen in a game for that gap to be close. Like, literally make a layup.
Wait, that's
like,
it. Yeah. One 3-pointer
like,
that rims in or rims out,
yes.
and it's a greater difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I get what projections are and how they take into account very, like, if you play everything a bunch of times, blah, blah, blah. But like tonight, I just need that guy to make a 3 and that guy to miss a 3, and he's going to outscore the chalky person. So, like, my point being is that, again, like, you can find a bunch of good plays here to pivot off the chalk, because I do think I'll just run through, like, I mean, we're not talking about topping because that's just a pricing error, although you can make a case for it. But, like, I think Jaren Jackson for sure will be chalky. I think Mobley will for sure be chalky. We'll see about Bane just because Levine's also kind of underpriced. I think Tyus Jones will for sure be chalky. I think those 4 are like really, really chalky. I think Tyus is the one I would feel the best about, because like you think about the Wizards now, and when we would play Tyus, like think about if this was last year, this in December of last year, Jaws out, Tyus is 4.9. What are we doing? We're playing them. And I'm sure you'll say, oh, it's not the same situation. But, like, is it that much different? Like, Desmond Bane and Jordan Poole, like, shoot a lot, dime a little bit. Kyle Kuzma and Jaren Jackson, like, it's kind of the same situation. Like, when you're talking – and I'm not talking about them as players. I'm talking about opportunity. Like, who's going to shoot? Who's going to get assists? Who's going to get rebounds? It's kind of the same thing. So, like, I was jamming in Tyus every night at 4.9 when Ja was out. Mm-hmm. So, like, why aren't we doing it tonight? And it's in the best game environment of the slate. So, like, I think he's probably my favorite of the chalk besides Toppin. And just, like, in general, I don't – like, if I'm looking at just primary lineups, it's like Bane and Levine. It's Sohan for the Spurs. It's Miles Turner at center. Like, the pool for, like, just if you're just talking cash games, it's like it's actually kind of tiny just because we don't have a lot of decisions to make. Like, we have Toppin at 3K, obviously. We have very little expensive guys to consider, like in the Luka range. Like, I think the biggest decision on DK tonight, if you're just playing cash games or just like trying to build like a single entry lineup in like a high dollar tournament or something, is like, am I playing Luka or am I doing something else? Like, because you can get Luka easily.
Sure.
But then you're playing some kind of fringy stuff that you don't necessarily have to do it. And then Luka could have 70. You feel like an idiot. Luka could have 50, and Tyrese Halliburton could have 50 for $2,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
So, like, I like the Hallie side. That's what I'm doing in my main build. I like the Hallie side. So I don't have much else to say on DraftKings just because it is actually pretty straightforward. Because if I want to talk about guys who are like underpriced or guys I like, the list is long because it's just a little more underpriced of a site tonight than FanDuel. So I'm looking just now briefly just to make sure I don't miss anyone obvious, but like a lot of the same guys I would say that I said on FanDuel, like Avdia, Schroeder, Tillman, like those are like fill-ins, but like definitely playing Jackson, definitely playing Mobley, definitely playing top end. Like right there is power forward, center, and forward. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel. There's not many decisions for cash games, so I'll let Ice talk about the how he's handling for tournaments.
Okay, Ice. I want to kind of start with where Means you just said. You just listed a bunch of names at power forward center, and that leaves guys that were not named like Porzingis and Vooch and, you know, all of these dudes who seem underpriced and could drop 50, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think everyone is just underpriced on DraftKings. It's much softer than FanDuel. Just kind of an overall thought is, I think a lot of times we'll come on crunch time and be like, you need to wait for news or whatever. Like we're waiting on the Luka thing, kind of, but he was at shoot around. We're expecting him to play. And the best game environment of the night, means he just mentioned it, is Washington, Indiana. So like, it's definitely not a wait for news type of slate. I'm playing into that game a ton. It starts with locking a completely mispriced Obi Toppin. Tyus Jones is way too cheap as well. I like Kuzma a good amount. Another one of those guys who could potentially go for 50. Came in on the injury report as well. So I think his ownership is going to be held down quite a bit, but Indiana is a fantastic matchup. They're expected to play really fast again. Just that game stack overall is something that I really like.
So I was going to ask you about your favorite game stacks, and your thought is that's your favorite one right off the bat. You're kind of stacking that one up.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many plays in that game. I'm good with a 3-2 game stack in that. It's completely underpriced. Miles Turner, somebody we haven't mentioned, another big man who could absolutely smash in the spot. Yeah, that is it. I do like. Let me see here. What was the other one? I like Atlanta and Charlotte quite a bit as well. We haven't mentioned Trae Young, and it's not my preferred build to spend up today. I much prefer that mid range, like a little bit. There's so many guys in that 5, 6, 7K range who could easily go sacks on this. So I'm primarily building in that range. A guy that I didn't mention who I do like on FanDuel is Clint Capella. I like him a little bit on DraftKings too, but he fits the scoring a little bit better on FanDuel. Big men against Charlotte was absolutely a thing the last couple of years. Okongwu was going to cut into him a little bit more, but definitely a guy who has big time upside. He's really cheap. He doesn't need to play 30 minutes when he's 6K. PJ Washington on the Charlotte side, I do like. Terry Rozier, another guy that I really like in that game. There was a note that LaMelo could be limited to around 30 minutes. So I definitely like the pivot. Like, I don't like spending up in the first place, up into the like 9, 10K range. And Terry Rozier is sitting there right in that 7K range. If LaMelo is only playing 30 minutes, that means Rozier is probably playing 35-ish or more. And he certainly has a ceiling as well. So really like Rozier in that game stack. Let's see. I think that about covers that. Young would be the guy on the Atlanta side, a little bit of Capella. DeJounte is fine. I think he has even a better matchup than Trae. If they put Rozier on Trae, then Murray would have the much better matchup against LaMelo. I don't have much DeJounte, but I do like him if you're targeting that game.
Okay. Do you want to zip through and tell me some of your favorite guys or guys that you are most over the field on as you kind of look at just position by position, just briefly, and then I want to get into some questions as well.
Yeah, at point guard, it's definitely Tyus Jones. I know he's chalk, but I think he's just too cheap. It's Tyrese Halliburton and Jordan Poole, Terry Rozier, Russell Westbrook, a name I haven't mentioned yet. I do like him quite a bit. We saw him play pretty well after he joined the Clippers last year. This is an outstanding matchup against a Portland team that just doesn't project to be very good this season. So I do like him a good amount as well. Let's see here. Some forwards that I'm overweight on include, I mentioned just the lock button on top, and it's a complete misprice. Yama, definitely a guy that I want to be overweight on. Brandon Ingram is a guy that I'm overweight on. Chet Holmgren is a guy that I'm overweight on. The Bulls are interesting. Like they're definitely mispriced too, and one of their stars probably pops off for a big game. I prefer Vooch of the three, but DeRozan and Levine are certainly priced at a point where they could have monster games at that price tag as well. Center only stuff. I mentioned Miles Turner in that game stack. Walker Kessler has a really nice price who could just go absolutely nuts. Let's see, Mark Williams, a guy I didn't mention for Charlotte, but I do like him a good amount. Tillman I mentioned on FanDuel, perfectly fine here on DK as well.
Very good. Means anything you want to add? We got about 10 minutes here until lock. We got to get to some QQs as well.
I'm going to ping our Slack channel. Like, I just noticed Toppin's only 24% on DK. Ice, does that seem off to you?
That seems off. He's going to be higher than that.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to ping it. Like, the more expensive guys are carrying more ownership than him, which I get because they're underpriced too, but like,
that's a good dynamic. You don't necessarily have to go down this low. If we had like Giannis on this slate and Luka and everybody wanted to play them, the 3K guy would be much more in play. On this slate, just the dynamic of DraftKings, I don't think you have to go down as low as 3K if you don't want to.
Really? Okay. I mean, I'll still ask him. We'll see, but I mean that game's about to start anyway, so maybe not even worth it. But the thing about why I like him in general, not just because it's a misprice, but like I don't think they like anyone they have at the 4 behind them. Like they've been playing Neesmith at the 4. They've I think Jarris Walker. Like we have him at 27 minutes. Like he could play mid-30s minutes tonight, man, just because I don't think they like what they have. So yeah, I would lock by them. All right, questions. Sorry.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, one way I was starting almost all my builds, now I'm realizing this was probably chalky and dumb, was Toppin and then Luka, right? Go cheap, go expensive, and balance it out. Is everybody who's playing Toppin spending up for Luka and almost vice versa, Ice?
No, I don't think Luka's going to be all that popular. He has the Q tag. Probably not as popular as he should be, honestly. But I just think the mid range is so strong that I don't think that's going to be a super chalk build.
Good.
Yeah, This was not like the first real slate where we have the thing where everyone feels $700 too cheap.
Yeah.
Then maybe it'd be like everyone does Toppin and Luka because stars are always like underpriced on DK, but now like everyone's underpriced on DK. So maybe not as much as you think, Roth, but I thought like that's if this was like a week from now, probably it would be that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We've got about 6 minutes. I'm diving into the RotoGrinders Discord. Apparently we've got over 700 people watching. Make sure you hit us with a little thumbs up. That's all we ask.
If there's not 700 thumbs up on this show, that's ridiculous.
That's right. That's ridiculous. That's disrespectful. All right, let's do it. I'm scrolling up just a little bit here, and I'll start here with Mike, FanDuel GPP, Ice. Whoa, hey-o. It's Walker. He said, Ohtani or Harper. Just kidding. Walker Kessler season. What are your thoughts on Walker Kessler season? You liked him, right?
Yeah, I definitely like him. Like Sabonis doesn't scare me on the other side of that game. Sacramento plays really fast, so nice pace up spot. I like him quite a bit.
Okay. JT Money says, Means, can you give me 2 or 3 cheap locks or kind of cheap chalk plays that you like on FanDuel? Means
on FanDuel?
Yep.
Tyus? I'll go Tyus. Tyus is one. I've been like wishy-washy on him all day, kind of going back and forth. Noto loves him. I'm riding with my boy Noto. I'm going with Avdia.
Okay, very good. Let's see. DK Cash question means THT, Sochan, or Avdia. I landed in this a lot. I never got to THT in that, but Means.
I'm pretty sure Sohan is more. Let's see. He is 40. Yeah, I would go. Oh, if you can get Avdia, I'd go Avdia. Yeah, I think so. Okay. That's what he said.
Is it Sohan? Is this the CH? The C is silent.
I think I always remember because it's like the movie. Like, don't mess with the Zohan. I think it's like Sohan. Yeah,
Sohan. Okay, yeah. It's day one. We'll get into it. GWB says, what is the status of Luka and the chance of him playing? We expect him to play, right? That's our current thought. Yeah. All right. Any love for Ben Simmons on FanDuel Ice 3 entry max?
Yeah, I didn't mention him, but I do have quite a bit of love. He played awesome in the preseason. We haven't seen it for years. If he didn't have one of the most difficult matchups in the league against Cleveland today, he would be chalk on this slate just because of the way he looked in preseason. He's too cheap, so I do like him.
Interesting.
He's like that's one of the most interesting things of tonight. I want to see, like, is this like actually going to be like what he used to be, or is it still going to be the same old shit? Like, you've had a whole offseason to get crapped on. Like, everyone's saying he's just like, no one thinks he's good anymore for whatever reason. Like, I want to see if he's back to being like who he used to be.
Will he take a shot? Like, will he force the issue? Will he drive? Will he take an open shot?
He doesn't have to. He could get 10 rebounds and 10 assists and absolutely smash.
That's true. Yeah. All right, more QQs. I've gotten a bunch of Zion questions, actually. Ice, did you land on any Zion?
A little bit too expensive, I think. Another guy who looked really good in preseason. I didn't get up to the 9 and 10K range very much just because the 5, 6, 7K range is so strong. Wow.
Okay. Man, I thought I had good middle builds, but now I'm realizing you are out middling the hell out of me, man. You didn't spend up for anybody. All right, FanDuel GPP last piece. Ice, I'm making your work. Favorite shooting guard or small forward at 4-4 or under?
4-4 or under. That was DK, obviously.
It was actually FanDuel, so he must have some flexibility somewhere there. So 4-4 or under, shooting guard or small forward.
And I don't know that I would be going down this low on FanDuel. Let me see here. 4,400. Shooting guard, small forward.
Yep.
I think Quickly is in play. I don't mind that. Yeah, not a lot to like. I don't think that's like the way I would build on this slate. Quickly is the answer, though.
Okay, great. Big Hurt says, means your favorite, was it large field, one bullet, your favorite stud means?
Hallie.
Nice. Okay. FanDuel GPP Ice from Gamble, Abdia, Toppin, or THT and Sohan?
THT and Sohan.
Okay. This question's kind of a little tough here. Let's see. FanDuel GPP from Sean, Levine or Kuz? Ice, Levine or Kuz?
I'll go Kuz there.
Okay. This is an interesting one. Means FanDuel GPP under 1% Kawhi. Any love before he takes the day off tomorrow?
Honestly, I mean, I shouldn't even admit this. I don't know his price because, like, I didn't even look at him. 9.4, like, probably not on this slate.
Yeah. GW says, any Triple J love in a DK large field GPP, or do you think he will get in foul trouble? I feel like there was a lot of love for him, right?
Yeah, he's one of the most popular guys on the slate.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There is plenty of love there. Cool Tune Luke says, I got 150 lineups on FanDuel, 100% Wemby.
Brunson.
That is balls. I love it. I love it. I am for that. NBA DFS FanDuel Cash, Rozier Washington or Fultz Vooch means Rozier Washington or Fultz Vooch.
I would do the first one.
Aside says, from a betting standpoint, 3 players to get a double-double not named Sabonis or Luka. A double-double, well, Wemby. There's got to be some other big guys that are going to get 10 and 10.
Mobley.
Yeah.
Bet Mobley gets a double-double tonight.
Yeah. All right, there's 2. We gave you 2. That's pretty good. Let's see. New Check the Score says, Pacifico, cheers to the Crunch Time podcast. Hit the like button, show some love. Pacifico, cheers to you, good sir. I approve. Hammer says, util on DK 5,900 or less. There's so many good plays there. Ice, you want to do it at the util 5,900 or less?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite play is Tyus. If you want something that is not quite so chalky, I will go THT.
Very good. Okay. I have no THT, and that makes me feel dumb. I'm a little worried now. Let's see. Steve says, hey, good to have you back. The mayor approves of this Crunch Time team. Hey, and he said, now hit the damn like button. We are happy to be back. We're going to be here doing this for free every day. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. That way you get alerts. Make sure you're hanging out with us in the RG Discord as well.
Garland's
Hey,
in.
what's that means?
Garland is in. He's in the starting lineup, so that takes away one of the big questionables.
Okay, great. Anything else that we want to cover, that we want to do here? Can we talk Wemby? How is he not the favorite to lead the league in blocks per game? How is he not the favorite to lead the league in blocks per game?
I have something I want to say about Wemby.
Please.
Because I have a pet peeve, not a pet peeve, but like a nitpick.
Yeah.
Because everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's like a video game. Like, people always like just throw that phrase around. Like, oh, video game numbers, or he's like a creative player. Like, he is literally like a creative player. Because if we, like, when you think about it, when you're a kid and you go and do the creative player, you go to the slider for height and you push it all the way up.
Make him 7'5". Yeah, you're good.
And then you go to the shooting and you push it all the way up. And the dribbling and the speed, you push it all the way up. And then the guy goes on the court and it looks like he's not even supposed to be out there.
Right. It looks ridiculous.
That is what is happening. Like, it literally is a creative player.
Yeah. It's amazing. His defense for me, I believe he's the best defensive player in the league already. Like, I see him on guards on a screen and like a switch, and he just smothers them. They can't get by him. He's so quick and he's so gangly and long. Like, he's amazing. He's incredible, man.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it is absolute lunacy, and I love it. And I'm so excited to watch that game. I assume you guys are going to watch little Mavs. Yeah, little Mavs Spurs action.
The Spurs are like on 55 national TV games now. They're like 2 last year.
It's so dumb and it's so great at the same time. Hammer says, was Wemby a better dribbler than Meansy in his prime?
Everyone was a better dribbler than Meansy in his prime. Like, I had shaky handle.
Yeah. Meansy's got the one dribble. He'll pump fake, side dribble, and shoot it from 3 anyways.
We used to talk about, like, I don't know, Roth, you might be able to speak better if TJ was on the show, about like X-Men, and apparently they have like one big thing that makes them really good.
Yes. They
like, who has the claws? Who had the claws?
Wolverine. God, come on.
Yeah. So like, my superpower was my shooting. So that made everything else better than it really was. So like, because I was a really good shooter, people just fly at me. So I would do one dribble. Yeah. And then if you made me dribble more than twice, I would dribble off my foot.
It's done. That's it. Gotta know who you're playing against. All right. Hey, I think with that, we can bounce on out of here. Good to be back in the mix, guys. This is wonderful. Again, we're going to be doing this all season long, so make sure you're hanging out with us. Steve says, by the way, Obi Toppin is only 57% owned in his single entry.
That's it?
That's it. Just 57%. I mean, we're expecting him to get full starters minutes, 30-plus minutes?
I mean, I think if I had to bet, we have him at 27. If I had to bet, I'd take 30-plus, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, he's going to get it done at 3K with those minutes if it happens. All right, with that, we are going to bounce on out of here. So for Means, for Ice, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.